RFC and President Bella Advisors. Good afternoon to you. Some of your thoughts on the action here with the S&P 500 jumping over 20% from April's lows.
It's nuts, isn't it? We've just been on a whirlwind this year, and we've had so many headlines and so many changes with the current administration that it's really hard to keep up. And I don't think the markets are, they're doing the same thing. They're just reacting to it throughout the course of the year. So as we've seen this big, the biggest one was China and coming to the trade table and renegotiating. And now that we're on a pause here for the next 90 days to see how that shakes out until it does or it doesn't. But it's going to continue to drive the markets. And I think people shouldn't be too excited, even though we've seen this big rebound and the S&P has come back to about break even so far for this year. Well, we're not done. We're not done with all the volatility that we're going to see throughout the course of the year. It's going to be rough, I think.
How did you feel about Moody's downgrade? It happened on Friday. We saw a lot of the reaction this morning. Did it matter to you because it already came on the heels of Fitch and S&P downgrading U.S. debt anyway? Because we did see sort of a knee-jerk reaction where people dumped out of bonds, Treasury yields rose, and stocks sold off. Did it make a big difference to you?
I think everybody has gotten so numb when it comes to the nation's debt. Nobody is really taking it seriously with the debt ceilings continuously being raised and nobody really solving any of the problems when it comes to our debt. And maybe this is a wake-up call that we need for more companies to be downgrading so people will start taking it seriously. But the markets don't really seem to be responding to that too much, surprisingly. It keeps really continuing to keep hammering up. And I think people should be taking it much more seriously, and not only the debt for the country, but also consumer debt being at an all-time high. I don't think there's enough that's being said about that.
All right. So that being said, what about the tariff risk? We're hearing from the different companies. I mean, there was certainly the back and forth with the White House and Walmart, in fact, pressuring Walmart, saying, don't transfer all the costs to the consumer. You should eat some of those costs, and et cetera, et cetera. And they actually said they will absorb some of the higher prices. And Trump said, you made billions, sort of take it easy type of thing. I'm neither on the Trump team nor the Walmart team, but just, that's how it's going. And that's how we need to know, how will tariffs affect our lives?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to continue to see the Trump tariff telenovela continue. He never passes up a microphone, good or bad, of what comes out of that. But I think as we see kind of short term here, and the biggest one is going to see being affected is really China and having such high tariffs for a period of time. And we'll see that, I think, as a short term. I think people just need to be patient, buy American. So over the next, probably 4 to 6 months, I think we might see prices start to go up. We might fall into a minor recession. I think we could potentially see here coming up, but I think it'll be short-lived. I think long-term, and as these trade deals start to work themselves out, I think we're going to be just fine. And I think once kind of all the cylinders start firing here, when things start turning around, we're going to start seeing some really good numbers long-term, but we're still going to see some short-term pain here.
What goes into a portfolio now, in your opinion? What should we be, adding or moving or changing in my portfolio?
It's a great time to start taking some of the chips off of the table, because still, we're still, close to all-time market highs in the markets, and there's never been a better time to start repositioning. Start taking some of those chips off of the table, and I call this building your financial home. You should have, take your age, that should be the percentage of money you should have safe and protected from market losses, period. And then you've got investments for the walls that are probably more like bonds and structured notes and things that are going to be paying you an income. And then you got your roof investments, which are your long-term stuff, your stocks and exchange-traded funds and mutual funds and things of that nature, precious metals. And so I think people should make sure they got a complete financial home to make sure that, especially as we're going through volatile times, and Nicole, we work mainly with people who are retired or kind of close to retiring, so we're a lot more cautious. But I think, it's like Warren Buffett. You see who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. He's been putting out a big warning here recently.
Yeah, he's been piling up with the cash. You noted Buffett's cash hoard suggests caution. At the same time, you're saying buying the dips. So maybe that's the way to do it. You said a shallow dip is possible. Go ahead. And the small caps poised to lead the recovery over the large caps. How do you go and pick small caps here?
Well, I think small caps, long term, are going to lead the recovery. So as we start seeing jobs coming back to the country, it's the small companies that are going to really be gaining steam. So you have the big companies that really get the headlines, but really, I think the driving force of bringing back the economy is going to be your small companies. It's going to be your hustlers that are out there making things happen, and they're going to be able to rebound and grow a lot more quicker from that. You're going to have a lot of industries starting to come back, and so we're going to see that starting to lift everything up, in my opinion.
Just quickly, you talked about the U.S. consumer even using DoorDash and using buy now, pay later. You're talking about some of the numbers, some of the savings, some of the defaults, some of the credit card debt. Just tell me some of these numbers and what your thoughts are on the U.S. consumer.
Yeah, last year, buy now, pay later consumer goods was over close to $80 billion. And you had DoorDash that came out where people are starting to finance their food deliveries, which is crazy. So it's like, man, what are people just not that smart? Or is this how they're trying to combat inflation? Because with credit debt being at all-time highs, I mean, it tells me that people are really struggling more than the headlines are really showing right now. And I think everybody needs to be very cautious of when this bubble is going to burst, because it is. And I don't think there's enough attention that's being shed the light on with that. It's crazy. People are financing their fast food.
Yeah, you also noted U.S. credit card debt reached 1.2 trillion, and the defaults at 2010 highs for the defaults. And last stat you had here was 2 trillion in savings that was depleted. So thank you for all of that, Patrick Mueller, Bella Advisors. Thank you, Patrick.